don't want to be too offensive to anyone, but if it would be only an engineering bike, it would look completely different.
Yeah.
And if it would only be a bike made by a designer or industrial designer,
it might
not sure about the ride feel.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned earlier that the aesthetic of the bike obviously is very important, and your industrial design has a very clear language. Sometimes like the engineering elements of a product almost compete with or up against this aesthetic
Most
requirement.
of the time.
Well, how do you manage that? Because you ultimately the form and function needs to be there. You've got something you want to achieve, but also it needs to look like a YT. How do you nurture that relationship to get everyone onto where you need to be?
I'm super happy about to say, like, the R&D team, designers and engineers, we know each other for a couple of years already. I would say everyone is like minimum 7 up to 10 years at YT.
Okay.
So we're sharing the same room for quite a while. So
Yeah.
everyone knows each other. So you can see, like, it's easy to interpret body language. So that helps in general to solve issues. But I agree, like, don't want to be too offensive to anyone, but if it would be only an engineering bike, it would look completely different.
Yeah.
And if it would only be a bike made by a designer or industrial designer, not sure about the ride feel.
Yeah.
So we call it ping pong, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So they both start independently, more or less. So we set up the requirement sheet, like travel, or the kinematics, geometry from engineering side. And then the designers, they do have an idea in their head. If it's like for the Tues Mark IV, it's easy. You see the old one.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it's the old one.
Yeah.
For most of the people, it's the current one. And maybe they bought it like 2 weeks ago and is still stoked. But for us, the project is already a couple of years old.
Yeah, okay.
So we do have most of the bikes in display. And if you having a look on a bike frequently, you see it's getting older day by day. And then they start to scribble like you would imagine, like industry designers do.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you bring that ideas together. And that's the point where the ping pong starts by saying, hey, is that possible?
Yeah.
We like that industrial design approach, but does it fit the kinematics? Will the pivot points be in your scribble, or will the pivot point here in the seat stays here?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's too traumatic, because the industrial designers, they do have a good approach, like how the engineers work, and vice versa. So it's not too far off.
Yeah.
And it's relatively easy to come to a conclusion. But I would say, if you're asking what's the philosophy behind that, I would say form follows function if we talk about the ride feel.
Yeah.
If we talk about the shape of the head box, which has only some influence on ride feel in terms of stiffness or in terms of handling, of cable routing, there's a little bit more, or let's say the engineers are open to discuss it.
Okay, so it's potentially more towards the function follows form in those areas.
Yeah. Or like dimension of the cross section of a tube, the shape of it.
Yeah.
That's design driven. If we do have the engineering part, like if you're aware of that, if it doesn't influence the flex too much or whatsoever, they can take over. But if it comes to ride feel, that's I would say the philosophy form follows function. Yeah.
Okay. And brands seem to be starting to understand more and more how to tune stiffness and compliance of a bike. Has that changed from the Mark III to the Mark IV? If you work more on that as you understand more about the benefits and also the tools, I guess, to predict and to work on carbon layups and stuff?
I think, to be honest, and that's what the feedback you get from other guests in the podcast, to deal with stiffness or compliancy for aluminum bike and having tools in place to do FEM analysis to see where stress points are, the flexes and whatsoever, there's a bigger challenge in carbon. I feel very lucky to have long-term partners to produce carbon fiber frames. They do have a certain experience because they do not produce for us exclusively, and they're in the business for a very long time, and they only do carbon.
Right.
So they do have a great expertise, and we can discuss what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And we learned from the MK3 that it might have been a little bit too stiff for some people. So we set up the project with the goal to have more flex in the frame to increase compliancy and confidence in the end.
Yeah.
Because if you do have more grip, and that's what compliancy is. Compliance is a very a big word. No one knows exactly what's behind that, but we're talking about grip. And the Tues MK4 has a bit more compliancy to offer.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's easier to ride.
And is that compliance targeted to certain elements of the frame? Do you find you're better off having certain elements stiff and certain elements
stiffness
more
of
flexible?
Rear triangle, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stiff, less stiff.
Less stiff
in the rear triangle, but the main triangle...
Yeah, it's more or less the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the compliancy comes a little bit out of the front triangle and the connection to the rear triangle, because parts are, you have pivot points and connecting parts to each other. But the main goal was having more compliance in rear triangle, BB area rear triangle, to generate more grip.
Yeah, and that just helps the bike track the ground better. And
yeah, exactly, and have a smoother ride.
Yeah. Interesting. What other changes have you made then? I mean, mullet compatibility is a big thing, I guess.
Yeah. You're asking specifically like how to generate compliancy, or?
Sorry, like on the bike. So you've changed the stiffness. What other changes have you made going from Mark 3 to Mark 4? Yeah.
The discussion about rear wheel size is still ongoing. Like, should I go 29 straight? That's my body size. How do I want to have the ride feels like? Should I go for a smaller rear wheel? So the wheel discussion is a big topic. We tried to have a simple solution in the frame, in the bike itself.
Yeah.
So the Tues MK4 comes with, we call it a flip link, is an integrated tool in the bike. It's not actually a tool. The link is easy to flip from one side to the other.
Yeah.
You just need a handful of different Allen keys to open the system, flip it, and you can convert it to your preferred wheel size. The bike is coming in small and medium with the mallet wheel size setup, and large, extra large, double extra large as a 29er.
Okay, because you feel that's the best fit for like rider height.
Based on body height.
Yeah.
Because I would say most of the people, they do struggle with smaller frame sizes with the bump clearance. That's a big topic.
Yeah.
And that's, we made a decision like having the smaller rear wheel in place. But if you say, hi, I'm a small size, frame size rider, but I only go for 29 straight, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Flip the link, get a new rear wheel, or get the rear wheel from your Capra.
Yeah. Because
the rear hub standard is not super boost, it's 148.
Is that a stiffness-based decision, or is it to help people that have got wheels in the garage and they can swap them? Why stick with normal boost?
I would say the main purpose is like, we don't necessarily see the need to have super boost standard in place. We do have UDH now on the bike as a cool feature. Yeah. That's super cool. And to make it easy for people to swap a rear wheel. I mean, we could have stick to the super boost and then we can say, you can easily swap your rear wheel, but who the fuck has different
spare super boost wheels?
Yeah, why would you have that? And so you would have to buy a new rear wheel just to figure out, is that your configuration or not? And if you say, nah, not my cup of tea, and then what? You ship the rear wheel back? That's not a super convenient way to just test things out.
Yeah.
And you can go more narrow with the rear triangle, changing the hub standard, so we have more heel clearance. So it's adding up with a lot of benefits when we made the decision. That's cool. Yeah,
and you've got the adjustable chainstay length. Is that more to accommodate people shifting between wheel sizes, or is it something you think people will actually kind of use when they're within the same wheel size?
I hope so.
Okay.
I mean, it's another easy tool to test different chain still length and to get the experience.
Yeah, we did it yesterday, and it took George about 2 minutes to switch it around.
Yeah. It's just like we try to have everything in place, that there's only some Allen keys needed to change that, to make adjustments.
Yeah.
And you can have like, or you can fine tune the ride feel. Do you want to have it more playful? Go with the shorter chain still length. Are you seeking for like having a more balanced or more stable bike? If it's going really fast, go for the longer one. So you do have options to fine tune your bike to your personal preference or to test it. Like that's nothing you can normally do.